This has all been chaos. You showed up, it was just chaos. Everything was just chaos this morning.
It's smooth now, though.
Well, yeah, we try to smooth it out. We try to figure it out. Kick everybody out the house.
That's right.
We get
Get your own time.
Get in professional mode. But yeah, okay. I got my train of thought back with you. Yeah, no, you've been down in Dallas for like 6 months. You just said.
Yeah, so we actually moved down there January 28th. So we really haven't been down there all that long. To be honest.
Yeah.
So
big change.
You know what? It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's a big change because it's a new area. You know, don't know a whole lot of people at first, or didn't know a whole lot of people, I guess I should say. But at the same time, it wasn't as difficult as what I thought it might be.
Yeah.
And I truly feel it's because Dallas, to me, is just a bigger St. Louis. I mean, it's a bigger hub.
Yeah.
There are a lot more people coming in. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, tons of opportunity.
There's a lot of culture, a lot of opportunity. But it's still Midwest. You know, it still has a pretty Midwest feel, like you can drive everywhere. I mean, yeah, traffic's quite a bit worse, but at the same time, it's not New York, it's not L.A.
Right.
And really, I truly feel that we've been successful to this point within the first 6 months because of everything that we learned in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And bringing that small-town mentality to a bigger area. I don't think people down in Dallas are quite used to that to the same degree.
Yeah,
Dallas is very flashy. There's a lot of money, a lot of nice cars, all those things. And not that St. Louis doesn't have that because, there's plenty of it. I just think it's more prevalent when you're in Dallas and it's very showy.
Yeah.
And people like to be seen, with all this stuff. So I think really bringing a small town mentality, coming in, really caring about, the people around us and trying to lift each other up, trying to build a community like what you're doing here.
Yeah.
You bring good people onto the podcast that you like, that you want to hear from. And as we've created that community down in Dallas, it's kind of funny because we find ourselves like, somebody that's close with us is from Nebraska. Somebody's from Kansas City.
Yeah.
A few St. Louis people. Like one day it was crazy. New patient walked in. He didn't even know that I was from St. Louis, and he's like, seeing all the, the stuff and some of the Blues, gear, whatever, and he's like, wait a second, like, what's going on? And our massage therapist is from St. Louis too, actually.
Oh, cool.
And I met her down there.
Really?
She's a chiropractor as well, so it's like this weird kind of hub.
Yeah.
But everybody just vibes together, so it's been fun.
Yeah. Texas is cool, man. I like once my kids get older, I'm for sure going to go live in Austin.
Austin, I hear, is great. I've been one time, but it was when we were still in, I think it was in grad school or undergrad at the time, and so I don't really remember getting out to explore Austin. It was just more of some of the, college-y bars, which we had a blast. But I'd like to go back and visit Austin now for the barbecue and for going out, and I hear hiking's great. And just a cool area.
It's a cool city for sure, man. I just like it's a very active city. There's a lot of people like our age there. But again, so it's kind of like a little piece of like LA in the sense of like there's a lot of open-mindedness and like just people living a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
But it's like still rooted like in Texas, so you still have like that Midwest feel, and it's a really good blend. I can definitely dig that city. But
and Texas is, Texas is a big state, but the University of Texas is huge too.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
between all of that stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's a budding city, but a lot of Texas is just growing, like whether it's San Antonio or Austin or Dallas. Like
Unreal.
Dallas is still just continuously growing, dude.
There's construction nonstop.
Yeah.
There really is. I mean, every time that you turn around, something else is being worked on, and it's kind of funny. I was actually talking to my wife, and when you're in the downtown area at night, there are a ton of lit up buildings. They've got the liner that goes essentially on all sides of the skyscrapers, or Dallas's version of the skyscrapers, right? It's not quite New York, but and it's cool. It's lit up, and I'm like, man, I wonder why there are so many buildings in Dallas that kind of go with that vibe, and I think it's because a lot of these big buildings are still much newer than some of, the other cities, because it's growing so fast.
Yeah, a lot of Dallas is new still.
And, you get up north into, like, Frisco and Plano, where the Star is, the Cowboys' big practice facility, and I mean, it's unreal. Like,
it's all that oil money down there, dude.
It's crazy.
They're just constantly building new shit.
Jerry's world is growing fast.
Right. Right. So now you opened up your practice down there.
Hmm.
Did you already have a practice up here before going down there?
Yeah, so just to kind of rewind a little bit,
Yeah.
when I was at Logan, I'm a sponge, right? Like I want to learn and grow with people that are that know what they're doing and that I vibe with.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Murphy, Mike Murphy, owned Performance Chiropractic or split into it with other people. He's been the Blues chiropractor for 20 years.
Yeah.
St. Louis Blues. He treated the Rams for about 15 years. And, at that time, I didn't know a lot about him. I just, heard really good things. And so I went in as a patient just to get to meet him, see what's going on, get treated by somebody good. And, we just built that relationship over time. And so as we got closer to graduation, I asked to do my preceptor as our internship before we graduate. So I did. He was nice enough to allow me to do that, to shadow him and pest him for a while.
Yeah, that
So
must have been cool.
it was cool. It was a good learning experience. I thought, one way or another, I'd love to learn from him, be a part of it. If I
Yeah.
can't be a part of the practice long term, it'll at least give me some great experience to help me.
Meet some cool people, I'm sure.
No doubt. And so, it went really well. I really liked the practice. I guess they liked me. And so over time, I started kind of feeling it out there like, hey, what do you think about me joining? I'd like to, to be a part of this if possible. And we had a conversation where we sat down with the other business partners, Dr. Shane Bates and Dr. Larry Burrell. We're like, what do you think? And they were, the conversation went essentially, we don't really have space. We weren't looking to grow like that, but, we like you. Let's see how we can make this work.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was part of that practice for 4 years. And so I was an independent contractor. I grew
Yeah.
my own business within that
Oh, that's
practice.
cool. Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds, right?
Right. So you have your own LLC. So,
Yeah.
it's Matthew Pennell LLC. So I was out marketing, doing all of those things to grow because then we all split into overhead. So it's a great way
Yeah.
as a new chiropractor to not get beat down right off the bat.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And-
You created your own position within the
Yeah.
organization.
And they just, they're really good to me. They helped me grow and learn a ton.
Yeah.
And so then I sold my portion of the practice to my business partners, and now they are seeing my patients. And so, then it allowed me to go down and start in St. Louis. But you know what? Those guys were great. They're always like, hey, if something happens, you need us, like, you've got a spot as long as, you want one. And so I always think about that too, but it's also a point where you can't really be stuck in the middle, if you will. Like you're either in or you're out.
Exactly. You got to put that like to the back of
Yeah.
your mind, dude. Like you got to like give yourself no other options. Just like, all right, this is what I'm doing.
Kind of like you said, I listened to that Burn the Bridge podcast, and I think that's a good example of it where you have to go all in. I love that they're on the back end to support me, and if they need me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if I'm going to give Dallas a shot, like I'm going to give Dallas a shot.
Right.
And until it, doesn't work, I'm not backing out.
Right. Yeah, because the thing is, it's not like you actually have to like burn any like relationships with that.
Correct.
Right? It's always there, but like in your mind, like I'm a fucking weirdo, dude. I just like go to the far extreme for things in my mind. Like that's the only way in my
Sure.
mind I'm going to commit to something. So if, for example, like I don't even really eat bread anymore. Like it's very rare that I'll eat bread.
That's
like,
good though.
Like I
That's
have an
a good
understanding. Like if it's like a sprouted grain bread or like a sourdough bread, like
Okay.
those are healthier for people. Like if that is your jam, but like I just don't. To me, I look at it. I'm like, that's not food. Like I just have to go to these extremes in my mind, and it's just this hard and fast rule. Whether it's exercise or something, it's like I have to do it, or else I'm gonna like fucking die or something. It's weird. I'm a fucking weirdo, man.
It's not a bad mentality, and I think I've been around a lot of people that have that same approach where it's it's an obsession type thing.
Yeah.
For me, like I'm a big I like making smart moves. I like making calculated risks, if you will.
Oh yeah.
I sometimes will overthink stuff because I get into that position. So I'm trying to get better at just making a decision and
Just
rolling
doing,
with it.
Yeah.
If you fall on the fence too much, it'll kind of, am I here, and that's tough. So I've been trying, and I feel like good business leaders, they make a decision, they roll with it, and if it's not good, they change it or they fix it. You don't
Right.
really. I was for a lot of years throughout my life, I've been very big on if I made a mistake, I really just beat myself up about it. And it's
Yeah.
like, everybody makes mistakes. It's part of life. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So, you make a decision and roll. And if it's not good, like, you can't keep looking back at, oh, I wish I would have done this. Like, it is what it is. But now
Yeah.
I'm going to do this going forward.
Right. Yeah, let's say for sure. Like, definitely learn where you can, but you gotta have a short memory. That was one of the things I learned playing football. Like,
What position did you play?
man, what position didn't I play? I was at some point I played every offensive line position, which was crazy. And then,
Every offensive line position?
dude,
How much do you weigh right now?
like right now I'm like 184 probably.
Okay.
Even then though, the biggest I ever got in high school was like 210, and that was just
Were
because
you a strong guy? I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's because I just wanted to do well on defense. Like now, I don't even let my son play football. I'm not even a fan of football nowadays, to be honest with you. But a lot of great learning lessons like being in that team environment, and one of them was like you gotta have a short memory because on defense or any side of the ball really, you might have a bad play. Like you got to move on to the next one.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I do. The
yeah.
quarterback mentality is big, and
Did you
some
play
people.
ball?
I did. Football was actually my favorite sport growing up.
Is it still?
Yeah. You know what? I think things change a little bit, right? You know, I always loved football. We were big Rams fans, all that stuff. I played quarterback for a little bit and then switched to running back. I tore my shoulder, some different things. And quarterback was tough because, like, you got to make decision. Again, at that point in my life, I was not good at making a decision and going with it. You overthink, and then, you throw an interception, you're down on yourself. Like, that's a tough deal. So over time, my relationship with football has changed. I didn't play in college. I chose not to. It wouldn't have been a big school, some, maybe D2, D3 type situation, but I just wanted to go to college. And so, over time, that's changed. I've started really liking golf.
Yeah, dude, golf is fun.
Yeah, and it's exciting to watch now.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Sunday afternoon and they're talking quiet and it makes you want to take
Maybe
a little nap.
Yeah, spend your whole afternoon
That's
napping.
right. But being around hockey has been a really cool experience for me too. I've gotten a lot more into hockey to where when I was growing up in a small town though, we didn't have ice available to play.
Yeah.
You'd have to travel about 30 minutes away and ice time's expensive. I don't think one way or another my parents really would have been into that scene.
Yeah. It's
But
an expensive sport.
It is. And now, now I get excited because I hope that, one day, the kids, obviously, we can't pick and choose what sports they love, but, it'd be fun to have them involved with, some football or hockey, golf. I mean, kind of any of those things. And you know what? If they're not, they're not. I can't force that. I'm not going to, but it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like just one of those things. You just kind of introduce them to different things and see what it takes. I'm not gonna lie though, I did not want my son to play football. I just start worrying about CTE too much. Like that's the reason why I stopped fighting. So I fought for quite some time.
You know what? Yeah. So I saw, or maybe I was listening to that on the podcast. What were you fighting? Were you stand up? I mean, were you fighting MMA or what were you?
So I did a little bit of everything actually.
Okay.
So like MMA was the focus. Like that was always the goal. Like try to get signed to a big organization through MMA. But like I had a coach that said like he wanted us to do everything. So especially as an amateur, I did boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai and MMA. So I did everything, and then also like jiu-jitsu and whatnot. And then as a pro, I did fight. I had one pro boxing match and like one kickboxing match just to stay busy while like during the downtime for MMA. So, but MMA was always the focus.
Okay.
So I did that for a number of years, man. Like had a really good run, and then like I just fought on Bellator, and then like the very first practice, like a week later, I freaking blew out my shoulder. I had a slap tear, so had to get surgery. It took me almost like a year to like fight again, and physically I was better than ever. But during that year's time, like my mentality completely changed for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted it, but like I really didn't. And like it's one of those things like, man, like if you're not committed and if you overthink it and like you just start worrying about your brain too much, like it's just time to get out. And I had a couple fights, and like you start getting in these hard moments, like just like with life or business or anything, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you gonna make it through the storm, or are you gonna tap and quit? And when I got in the fights, dude, I'm like, man, I don't want to be here. And I was like, fuck this.
Yeah. And if you don't want to be there in the middle of a fight, that
dude,
ain't a good situation.
It's not a good situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just one of those things where I just had to like make a rational, real life choice. It's like, man, I gotta just like know when to throw in the towel, if you will, for lack of a better pun. You know what I'm saying? Like,
now, who did you fight for in St. Louis, or where did you train?
So I actually still train there. It's St. Charles MMA.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Mike Rogers is the owner of
Mm-hmm.
that gym, and I still train there, jujitsu and coach and
Cool.
do different things. But
Like I trained at Finney's MMA for a little while.
okay, I fought on Shamrock quite a bit.
I swear, okay, before us even talking, you reached out through the email, but I swear I recognized you like online, and we weren't like
Okay,
friends online and stuff, I don't think at the time, but
yeah,
I swear it must have been from fighting. And then I never
probably.
I never fought personally.
Uh-huh.
We did the training, and I was in school at the time. That was kind of always the goal was I wanted to do just stand up boxing. I
Okay.
was never really into the full MMA scene. I liked the kickboxing training.
Yeah.
Because I did, I was a trainer at title boxing for a little while. And,
Okay.
I mean, title's a whole different deal, but,
Yeah.
it kind of went from more of the like fight training to then it was more like a job,
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff while I was at Logan. But, because you probably were fighting from what year span?
I had my first fight, and I think I fought from like 2008 is whenever I started,
Okay.
and probably like till the end of 2017 is whenever I stopped. So
Yeah.
close to a decade.
So really during that time, I almost guarantee that that's probably where I recognized the name or saw you,
Oh
whether,
yeah.
when we were at some of the fights, I'm sure. Because did you guys fight out at St. Charles, or did you fight up at, gosh, what's the place downtown? The casino.
So like Lumiere, I know they hold
Yeah.
shows there. I fought there for Shamrock, and
Okay.
then River City.
Yeah.
I think I fought down there one time
Okay.
for them. Kind of just fight wherever the shows are. I fought
Sure.
at Maristar
Yeah.
here,
Okay.
Kansas City, just different. I
Got it.
mean, wherever the show is,
That's
just kind
awesome.
of go. But
It's
yeah,
got to be an
that
unreal
could be
feeling.
it.
Like talk me through this. All right. Let me switch this around on you for
Oh,
a second here.
okay.
Talk me through what it's like walking into the ring.
Oh, dude, it's kind of surreal, right? Because the thing is, you want to find like your headspace, and
Yeah.
it's fun we're talking about this. I feel like I've people are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I always thought I was like an adrenaline junkie. Like that's what I was looking for. But it's really, man, like flow state. Like that is what I'm fucking looking for. I love flow state. Like when you're just locked in the zone
It's
and
crazy.
nothing else matters, and like everything you've been preparing for is just working. Everything works. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like you're just fucking everything is seamless, and you're just owning that shit. And then like you finally come to, and then that's when you're excited, but like flow state's gone at that point. Like, and then you're just fucking really you're chasing a couple things. Like you're chasing a high for
Yeah.
sure, because when you win, there's no higher than that. But then like
Oh,
I
yeah.
do just like that state of being where everything is just like laser focused. So for me, walking in, it's this really weird thing. We always have this joke that, at least I do, like whoever fights before me is going to get like a quick finish. Somebody always does. Like I never have the fight before me go like the whole length of time. It's always like a quick first round finish. So like I'm always ready to go like immediately. And then like they play your music, dude. You fucking, for me anyway, I take a deep breath. It's like, dude, let's just go. Walk down there. It's just really weird because like everything's going on, right? And I
Right.
just try to just like focus. Like
Yeah.
there's like a million thoughts going in your head. Like for me, it's always like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? For real, dude. I'm like, I really don't need this, but
Right.
all right, let's go in here. Let's do this. Like that's what's going through my mind. Nobody can tell though. Like you're not gonna. For me, I try to keep like a stone cold face. I don't want anybody to see like what I'm thinking or feeling. So
It's a big head game.
yeah, my favorite part is whenever you get up, you get to the end, fucking, they start greasing you down. They usually put, they're putting the Vaseline on your face. Sometimes they'll do it in the back, but sometimes, or at least they used to anyway, for the most part, do it at the cage. That's like my favorite part. Like they do
That's
that.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
close my eyes, I take a deep breath, and then you're just in there. For then it's like you're half naked, it's cold, everybody's fucking yelling. It's just this other guy across the fucking cage from you, like who's about to knock your block off. It's an interesting experience.
It's intense.
Yeah, but I used to love that shit more than anything. It's just, man, you just lock in and everything just works.
But I think, regardless of whether you fought or not, you can understand why people, chase that high and get competitive with it.
Yeah, you can get that from anything, right? I mean,
Sure.
it doesn't necessarily have
Yeah.
to be from. I get it from podcasting now.
Some people get it from business. There
Oh,
are some
yeah.
people that just love to work.
Yeah.
My business partner, he's a grinder. Sometimes you almost wish that he had a hobby, right? Like, so he'd get away from the stuff a little bit. But
Right.
It's some people really just, whatever it is, get that, obsession, get that high from it. And, that's why you can't blame anybody for what that point is. It's individual.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything that puts you in like that flow state where you're just like you're tuned in and then the time just passes? Or is it business for you? Is it?
You know what? I don't know. I think it can come from different things.
Oh,
Like
for
I
sure.
think football used to do that for me. I really, really enjoy building relationships in business. I like helping people. There's something really gratifying to, whether it's a chiropractic student that's coming out into the real world, giving them some good advice or just getting them set up with a good connection. Like I love connecting people
Yeah,
and seeing them both, each party benefit from that. It makes me feel good. Like, so because I always feel that good people know other good people,
yeah,
and you always want to surround yourself that way. So I love taking a meeting and just feeling like, man, like retracing the step of how we got there, right?
yeah.
It's wild how these relationships can start sometimes. Like a friend of mine, and we've become closer now being in Dallas, but we actually grew up together in small town Illinois in Jacksonville. He was in my brother's class. His name's Quinn Yording, and when you go to a new place, a good piece of advice, I guess, is reach out to the people that you know, right, and start there because
Yeah.
it's a big world, and in a new space it can be overwhelming. So start with the people you know and or something that you know of, and have some common ground with, and go from there. So Quinn works at Equinox. He's a Tier X trainer, which is the highest level like personal training, and I mean
Okay.
they hold themselves to a very very high standard. And so I went down there and he walked me through their gym and talk me through it. And I don't know how much you know about Equinox, but it's very similar to Lifetime.
Okay.
Uh, you know,
Kind of box Jimmy.
yeah. They have a pretty high membership. It's kind of held to that like extra tier, if you will.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
see him a lot in the
Higher
big
clientele.
cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he helped introduce me around, and just seeing like, it was that introduction. And then, they have us come to do a booth at their spot. And then we meet
Nice.
a primary care physician who now sends us people. And then that person, it's just,
Yeah.
it's fun to see that down the road. And I think that's really what gets me excited
Yeah.
is seeing, the beginning stages and then where we're at down the road and just kind of like looking back and going, wow,
Yeah.
if I didn't go to that one night that I didn't really feel like, setting up a booth, none of this would have ever happened.
Right. Dude, that's what business is though,
It
right? Like
is.
that's what
It
people
is.
don't realize. It's just doing these things all the time, day in and day out. And it doesn't seem like anything much. And because there may not be a lot of reward yielded up front, but then one day it's just like, holy shit, like how the hell did I get here?
Right. Well, I mean, even if you think about us, for instance, where, you reached out to me, which I was very grateful for, it's cool to have that be a mutual thing because, from being on the other side of the podcast, it's always not always one-sided, but, you're wanting to bring people on stuff. So it was an honor for me to get asked to come on, but it very easily could have been a situation where it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to make it up, or, we weren't able to do it in person, whatever that is. But just thinking about, okay, that's an extra hour or so of our time, but now what's that going to lead to, right? It's going to lead to
Yeah.
more relationships and more connections.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue following along your progress, and, over time, we're going to become better friends and
Oh yeah.
closer
100%.
because of the couple hours that we're willing to spend out of the day to sit down. And I just think there are a lot of people in the world that aren't willing to take the time to further themselves. They're very concerned with, I don't really want to go do that. I'm tired. Like I want to
Yeah.
watch TV. I'm not feeling so great. And that's fine, but I'm gonna lay down everything I got to make sure that,
Yeah.
we're gonna grow and we're gonna hit those relationships. And yeah, I mean, there are plenty of nights where you just don't feel like doing it, but those are the times where you just got better as an individual, and you met more people that are really gonna, potentially change your life.
Oh, 100%, dude. I mean, that time, like that moment where you don't feel like doing it, like that's like the biggest opportunity for growth.
You're exactly
You know
right.
what I mean? Because it's
Yep.
never comfortable. It's never comfortable doing what you
No,
need to do, and you
no,
don't
it's not.
always feel like it. Feelings will lead you astray sometimes when it's like, oh, I would just it feels so good in this bed. It's so nice and warm. I don't want to like get up and do what I need to be doing. You know what I mean?
People like their safe zone.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see a lot of people being good at things like cold calling or stopping by offices.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's
making a
not
connection.
comfortable, but the more that you do those things and get out of your comfort zone, the better you become as an
Yeah.
individual. And it's just, look, I avoided some of those things for a long time too. And in Dallas, we've had to do more of it where it's, walk into a physician's office, and even though we have referrals for them, sometimes the front desk isn't as welcoming as you think they would be.
You'd like for them to be
Yeah,
anyway.
and unfortunately for those guys, especially the orthopedic surgeons, they're hit with a lot of salespeople all the time.
Oh yeah.
So in their defense, the receptionist is kind of the gatekeeper, if you will. So I don't blame them. I think it makes it very tough for somebody who really is just trying to establish a relationship. Like, I don't have anything to sell, and to be honest, a lot of times I go into those places because I need to meet them to make sure that, if I'm sending Adam for a shoulder consult, you tore your labrum, you may have rotator cuff damage. Like, I need to know who's on the other side of that to
Oh
make sure
yeah.
that my patient is going to be treated well, because if they're not, that looks, it looks poorly on my end.
Yeah, that's something I feel is really missing in the healthcare space is all of these like different physicians, they're not really working together.
I think, and unfortunately, at times you do see that happen a lot, and that's why people start skipping around from person to person to person.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I get it, I do, but from being on the other side of that as a patient, do your best to see at least that care through, because if you cut out early, there may have been a reason why, that individual wanted to follow up with you in a month
Yeah.
or see you a couple times that week. And if you just cut out treatment and there's no communication, on our end, we don't know what happened.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you got better, maybe you didn't, but now you're running around and you're like, oh, Dr. Pennell didn't really help me. Well, did we complete the care plan? Did we talk about, what else was going on? I feel like it's a big responsibility of ours as practitioners to make sure that if somebody comes in our office, even if we can't help them, we get them to the right spot.
Yeah.
I never want to go, you know what,
Yeah.
it's not really something that I can handle. I want to go, okay, you know what, let's take a look. If it's not something that I can handle immediately, like, who do I know that can help you? Do
Yeah.
you need an orthopedic surgeon? Do you need a functional medicine nutritionist? Maybe you need a psychologist.
Yeah.
It depends. There are a lot of different things. Or maybe we just need X-ray, MRI.
Yeah.
I try not to make people spend a ton of money right off the bat. It's just, let's start some conservative care, let's start some treatment, see how you respond. And if you're not responding well, then let's go to the next step.
Yeah. It just seems like so many doctors, I mean, there's so much overhead. Everybody's kind of weighed down with a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, you go to a surgeon, they're probably going to want to like recommend surgery, or you go to like
You see it a lot.
everybody
Yeah.
kind of has their
Mhm.
thing, and
If
whether
you're a
it's
hammer, everything's a nail.
yeah,
Right?
so like
Yeah.
whether it's the communication between the patient and the physician, or just
Right.
between the various physicians and in their disciplines, like there just needs to be like a better like
Yeah.
more communication, because for some reason it seems like like the chiropractic industry, for
Mhm.
example, like that can be frowned upon by some people because they feel like, oh well, because it's not this, it's less, or in
Mhm.
some people, so everybody kind of has their own agenda for whatever reason, instead of like what's best for the patient.
Yeah. Well, and let me put something into perspective for you, because I think this you start to understand why physicians do other things, like go outside of the normal, if you will, to make money. So, chiropractic school alone, I mean, just a couple $100,000. All
Yeah.
right. So, to go to school for 4 years extra, that doesn't count for undergrad or whatever.
Right.
Everybody's situation's different too.
Right.
But so let's say you took out the loans, you did all that stuff, and you're a couple $100,000 in debt. Well, insurance is maybe paying like $50, $70 a treatment.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
gotta see a
how
lot.
many treatments you got to do before you get to pay that debt off,
Yeah, you
right?
gotta see a lot of people.
Right. So, and it's different than an orthopedic surgeon. I know those guys at times go even more into debt than
Yeah.
the chiropractors, but
Right.
you understand why chiropractors start looking for other things, right? Where it's, oh, how can I bill for this? Or, is there something, these electric stim units,
Oh yeah.
you can send those with patients, and, insurance will pay you on the back end. Not like in a bad way. It's just it may not cost you anything out of pocket, but insurance is going to pick up whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe on the back end they do owe something, but people start looking for all these ancillaries because the immediate cash flow is not great. You're kind of, I don't want to say you're led to believe something that isn't true because that's not right. But in my opinion, if I'm going to spend that much money to go to school,
Yeah.
I expect to be making good money, and it's just not the case.
It's tough.
You have to. No one owes you anything though. Like you have to come out and grind. You really do.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
my first year in practice, I made like 13 grand, which was, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it also gives you the perspective of what it takes to build $50,000 practice, $100,000 practice,
Oh, yeah.
and
It
where
takes
it goes
time.
from there. It does. So the perseverance of getting in and growing and figuring it out is really important. And that's why there are different routes that you can take as chiropractors, like whether you want to work for somebody as an associate or you want to be an independent contractor like I was
Yeah.
at Performance, or you want to own your own. It's just kind of what risk are you willing to take. But that also depends on what your life story is, and everybody's so different, so
Yeah.
it's very individualized.
Yeah, everybody's so different. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
there's a lot of people who want to push a very like cookie cutter model of care, and it's like, all right, well this diet works for everybody, or like people get
Yeah,
very like
yeah.
religious about their beliefs. It's some crazy shit to deal with. I'm sure that's something you have to deal with, right? With patients coming in, it's like, hey doc, like I just heard about this. Like, what do you think about this? Like the craziest thing.
Yeah, patients are always coming in with different things, or patients sometimes will come in and they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
think it's my lat and all this stuff, and sometimes they're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes like, what, let's just put the
WebMD.
right, let's just put the thoughts aside and let's take a look.
Yeah.
And you know what, patients are pretty educated though, and especially if they've been from one
Yeah.
physician to the next. One thing that we unfortunately see a lot of in the chiropractic world is you can do it any which way. Like you and I could have gone to the exact same school and we may practice 100% different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you may do dry needling, you may, take an upper cervical approach, which is a thought process that you're only going to adjust the upper cervical spine and
Okay.
everything else will fall into place.
Oh,
So you
okay.
don't physically do low back adjustments and all of that,
Oh,
which is
okay.
different. I think it can work. It's
Yeah.
not my philosophy, but and then maybe I do active release technique. I do soft tissue work with my hands. We adjust, full spine if needed, all of those things. So they're two very different approaches. Maybe I like a big treatment plan. Maybe hey, you come see me, once or twice a month.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. People, unfortunately for the consumer, for the patient, they don't know what they're getting from chiropractor to chiropractor and
Mm.
sometimes physician to physician. So we get a lot of people that, have a bad experience for whatever reason. And you know what? I do my best not to like rip on anyone else and their beliefs or their approaches. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that was your experience. This is how we do it here.
Yeah. That's all you can do.
And you just constant communication with the patient of how are you doing? Are you improving?
Yeah.
Are you not? Let's tweak this. Let's change, because I always want the patient to feel like they're spending money for my service and my time.
Yeah.
So I always want them to feel like I'm really involved and I want to do whatever I can to mold it to fit them specifically, not try one thing and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
What do you think of decompression tables?
I like them. We actually have a table down in Dallas now. A couple of the guys at Performance in St. Louis have them too.
Yeah.
That are a flexion distraction, it's called, where you lay face down and you can actually strap the feet in, so you're laying face down and let's say, here, and the lower half of the table will go down
Okay.
automatically. Some of them you can actually hand pump.
Yeah.
You can swivel them side to side, which helps if there's a disc bulge, but I
Oh.
like that a lot. It feels great on the low back.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm a big person, like I try to practice doing the things that I personally have felt benefit from.
Yeah.
Because if you can live it, breathe it, and talk about it, it's way different than just selling somebody on an idea.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That sounds kind of similar to like are you familiar with the reverse hyper machine?
I'm not.
So it was a machine. It was invented by like the guy Louis Simmons, who runs
Okay.
West Side Barbell, and he was having like a ton of back
Yeah.
injuries just
Yeah.
from just heavy lifting and just being a madman. And what it is, it's like a platform, and there's handles, and there's like a like a pole, for lack of a better term, like hanging down for like where you can rack weights on it if you wanted to.
Okay.
And there's a loop that you put your feet in, and like a hyper is where you're moving the upper half of your body. So
Yep.
this is reverse hyper, and you start swinging your legs, moving your legs, and it's hollow in between, so the weight will pull your legs through, and it'll help with that decompression of
Interesting.
the lower spine there,
That's
like
pretty
as you were
cool.
speaking,
Yeah.
and then you're lifting back up and you're strengthening as well. So you're getting that
Hmm.
decompression with a strengthening simultaneously, and like Louis Simmons used that for his back. I learned about it through Joe Rogan, and
Joe Rogan's the man.
yeah, he was talking about it, and so my buddy Matt, what the fuck's Matt's last name? I'm gonna hate myself. What's Matt's last name? Project Deliverance. We both suck. I'm sorry, Matt. I still love you. Oh, Matt Owen.
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. So he owns a gym called Project Deliverance, and they have one of them there. So
Cool.
I got to actually try it, and I love it. It feels great. So like, I mean, you're getting that strengthening of your lower back, which is so important, but
Yeah.
then that decompression, it does feel good on that lower back.
I love I love getting adjusted. I love the soft tissue, but I really do like that decompression type of therapy.
Yeah.
I, I feel that that's why everyone is getting so excited about. Have you seen online those? It's like there's one that's called a Y strap, and there's one that is.
I haven't seen it.
So you're gonna have to YouTube after this. It looks like a ski handle almost, but it wraps around your neck. You're laying face up, and somebody grabs it and just pulls it,
Huh.
and it's a big distraction for your neck. But I mean, you feel it all down your spine, I would assume. I've
Hmm.
never done it. It
Yeah.
looks interesting, but there's a guy down in Houston. You're gonna have to look this up, and anybody watching, maybe some people have seen it. It's called the Ring Dinger.
The ring dinger.
The Ring Dinger. This guy's super country, but he takes a towel and wraps it around your neck, like literally flips it, and you're on your back,
Okay.
and then he yanks it. And I'm
Oh.
talking like
No one's died from
yanks it.
this?
No, it's crazy. I mean, everybody, you look at their face and they're like, oh my God. Like, what
Yeah.
happened? But then he comes around and he like checks their reflexes and he's like, oh, is everything good?
Oh,
They're still alive.
scare the mess out of it. Holy cow. People pay for this, huh?
Yeah.
The ring
I
dinger.
mean, I remember watching those videos years ago, and I mean, he's got a ridiculous following online because of just some crazy off the wall technique. And I think some of those then developed into this Y strap, and
Huh.
because people start going down the rabbit hole when it comes to these chiropractic videos, which I didn't even realize. So it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, you're gonna start. You have an Instagram page for the business?
So we have an Instagram page for the business, Element Health and Wellness, and then I have my own. And when I was at Performance, I just ran it all off of my page.
Okay. Yeah. So
And then now we have the Element page. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to push that off to where, one of our marketing guys is doing more of
more
the
content
Element
for that.
page. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're kind of figuring that out
Yeah.
because it's got to be consistent. It's got to be educational. And
Yeah. So you have to make some of those videos or
we
something.
we need some improvement in that realm. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I didn't even really realize how much people like those adjusting videos. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could have been doing that for years.
Dude,
but
people love the
yeah.
craziest things.
They do. I guess me personally, I'm not a big video guy. Like, I don't sit on my phone and just watch videos.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm typically occupied with something else.
How do you like to learn?
I like reading. I really like listening to podcasts. I feel like I'm dangerous to myself when I'm in my own headspace.
Okay.
Like I just, think too much. So I really like being in the car and listening to the podcast because then I'm in tune with what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about what they're saying and that growth side, and I'm not so focused on like what's good or bad in my own life. I'm just trying to look at that and go, oh wow, that's a great idea. So I really like that. I love just learning from people like this,
Yeah.
getting to sit down and talk with them.
Yeah, it's like my favorite thing to do. A part of the reason why I started this podcast is like I wanted we talked about the connections with people being so important,
Yeah.
but I also wanted to like gain more empathy through those connections because I feel like it's so important, like just to possess that skill in life, but I tend to operate from this place of like just cut the shit and get it done, which can lead you like not feeling sorry for people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I'm
it
trying to
definitely
learn
can.
this balance, and like that's why I only want to do these in person because I want to make like real connections with people.
No, I agree. Are you a pretty direct person in general?
Um, Yeah, like if we're talking and there's like a relationship there, yeah, I'll just tell you how
Mm-hmm.
like what I'm thinking. I don't
Yeah.
really sugarcoat it. I just
Yeah.
I just tell you
Mm-hmm.
like pretty directly. Yeah, I feel like it's just the best way to. I don't really know how to be any other way. I try to be tactful with my
Yeah.
wording for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how any other way to be than just tell you how it is.
You know what? I think personally I've gotten better at that than I was at one point in time. I agree. I like the direct side. I
Yeah,
think when people are making a point to, if I've got a problem with something that you're doing,
yeah,
it's better for me to just tell you that in a correct way, right? Like there are good
right.
ways and bad ways to talk to people in that direct, manner. Um, but I feel that our long term is much better than if I don't like something you're doing and I'm being passive aggressive, or I'm just going to set
Yeah,
it aside and kind of hold this back end grudge.
right,
Like that's not a good thing because one, you may not even know that you did something wrong or
right,
that offended me or whatever it is. So it's not really fair to you, and it's not really fair to me either because then
right.
I'm it's messing with my day, it's messing with my feelings, my thoughts towards you, and so being Murph was Dr. Murphy over at Performance. He was always very direct with me, and I mean, if he didn't like something, he'd be like, Matt, we need to talk about this. All right, I don't like this. We need to change this. And at first, it took me a little while to like kind of figure that out, and then I realized how much I actually liked that approach because
Yeah,
you may not always agree, but it is what it is. I mean, like it was more fact. It's just black and white. Like here it is. We
yeah,
didn't like this. Let's change it.
yeah.
And it wasn't so much of tiptoeing around and like, is he mad? What's going on? And so I've become a lot more direct because I've seen how much of an issue it can cause within an organization when the communication is bad and when people are not very direct with what they're asking.
Yeah.
It really, like, when you sit down in a meeting, I think it's extremely important to, if you have things laid out, you honor people's time, you ask people directly what's on your mind, you let them know directly what's on your mind, and then you're able to move on. You don't have to continue those meetings and on and on and on because the point wasn't ever grasped. So I think, in any real aspect of our lives, being direct and, maybe there's a little mini issue that needs to be resolved, but the long term of that is way better than just putting it on the backside. Unfortunately, it can be very difficult if you don't really care for that approach.
Yeah.
If you're more of a, like, I'd rather shove those feelings down and I'm trying to have a direct conversation with you, those can be really tough, I think, at times.
Yeah, I'm a pretty laid back guy, but I still
Yeah.
like if I need to talk to you about something, I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable though, right? I
It
mean,
at times
those are
it's
not
not.
comfortable conversations,
Yeah.
but they're necessary. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just kind of one of those things like
And I think it's also hard in those situations not being too confrontational, right? Like there is some confrontation, but controlling that and speaking in a way that is more constructive than just, look, this sucks. I hate this. Like, well, let's, this, and this, where you're just kind of beating somebody down. But
yeah.
if you're like, look, here are a couple things that I didn't care for. Here's why. What do you think about maybe trying this? Or do you have any ideas on how we could improve this? Because based on this, it's not working.
Yeah.
And, I'm struggling in this way because of it. There are a million different approaches that you can take, but communication is hands down the easiest and most difficult part of business, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, one of the hardest things for me is I always just assume people know what I know.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
tough.
so
Yep.
it's just like, yeah, I know it, so you know it too, right?
Right.
And then because of that, I wouldn't say things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start assuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all I did. I just made an assumption about your knowledge base. And then I think you're going to do what I want you to do because you think like me, right? But no, like I've just learned the hard way. People don't think like you and they don't know the things that you know. So you have to say it because otherwise, if you don't say it, then it just doesn't get done. And then you're disappointed and then you get pissed off and it's just a vicious cycle. So you just gotta like address the situation at the cause, which is yourself. And
Very, very true.
yeah, at least that's what I did.
Yeah, you know what? And even I feel one of the biggest pieces about communication is setting expectations.
Yeah,
and that's where I think that you don't fall into that trap, is if you actually have that expectation rundown first. We've come across it a lot with our new practice where I'm like, all right, I can't even be pissed at this person because I never let them know what their expectations were in these certain situations.
Yeah.
They did what they thought was right. It's wrong, but
Yeah.
who's really to blame? And that's
Just
me.
growing pains.
Yeah, but as a leader, you got no one else to blame but yourself. It
Oh yeah.
always comes back to you, because if somebody's doing something wrong, more often than not, that wasn't communicated to them properly. Expectations weren't laid out. They didn't know they were supposed to be here at this time. They didn't know they weren't supposed to say, certain things in a meeting, whatever that is. And so, I'm trying to continuously get better at laying expectations and making lists and talking to people about what's on the agenda and what's really, expected of them on my end when we do something together.
Yeah. Yeah, just taking more ownership of like the entire process.
Yeah, I think too quickly, a lot of us, it's been me at times, I've been around it, I've seen other people do it. You want to take the victim route of, oh, well, he didn't tell me this. Well, did you ask him? Like what was the problem? And, I'm pissed at you because you didn't look deep enough in. Okay, yeah, maybe he didn't tell you what you were supposed to do, but you didn't ask back. So whose problem is that now?
Yeah.
Now it's really yours, and really getting people to take ownership in what role they play is so important. You
Yeah.
need leaders, and look, for the longest time, like I'm not a natural born leader. I think I was always put in position to do that, but I was always so self-conscious about how it came off that I didn't really want to step up and maybe make the harder decision. And it's
Oh yeah.
wild how much respect you gain when you just take charge. But I think that takes confidence and doing the right thing enough that then you can portray it to others. Like, you can't tell somebody, to pick trash up off the ground if you're not walking by and picking up trash yourself.
Oh, you have to lead by example, dude.
Yeah, and I think as the more that you do that, when you talk to other people about it, you have the confidence in doing things to a certain standard that you have no problem, saying, "Hey, we need to do better, guys."
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%, dude. If you're not leading by example, it then nobody underneath you is going to adhere to the same
Sure.
standard. And something that has is what do I want to say? Something that has just like really been at the top of my mind as of late is like you can't expect people to care as much as you care about
No
your
doubt.
like, if you're the boss or if you're the this is your baby, this is your business,
Hmm.
whatever the case may be. Even if you have partners, it's like your employees at the end of the day, they aren't going to work as hard as you are going to, because you'll work 20 hours a day on your business, but you can't expect them to do that. But if you
Yeah.
do lead by example and you do set that standard, why they are there, they'll perform to their best too. And if you really have a fucking awesome culture, they'll put in 12 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it starts with you.
Leadership is such a big component in business, and I feel that's why you see, a person like Andy Furcell's company, which I know you brought him on your podcast
Oh yeah.
recently, and you see how successful they are in business, but it's not because he just wants people to show up and work. He's physically showing them, this is why we're doing this. We want people to feel at home. We're going to help them on all these levels, and then he's giving his employees things to help them grow, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to get our employees now to listen to a podcast a week. Hey, I'm picking out podcasts that are more specific to what's going on with them,
Yeah.
because I want them to grow as individuals. They're not there just to solely work for me, regardless of whether or not they're working at Element or they're out doing their own thing. I want them to be successful. If they're here, they're part of my family.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, gear them up for the right things, regardless of whether it's with us or with somebody else.
Yeah. You should do team workouts.
We do some of that stuff, and those
Yeah.
have been great. As we've gotten busier, it's been a little bit harder to do them to the same capacity, because now I have, Saturday hours and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, even like you said, a team workout where you're getting in, grinding, you're working together, you're working hard.
Yeah.
It's good team building. One
Yeah.
of the other parts about leadership and taking, ownership and responsibility is, look, we do a lot of stuff wrong as individuals. I mess up tons of things. but we as leaders also have to make sure that we take ownership and apologize when we're wrong to our employees and whatnot, because we're not always right.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot
We're
of
all
stuff
human.
that comes up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But taking that type of responsibility and doing, hey, guys, you know what? I fucked up. I snapped. That was the wrong call. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think people will start to really, love you for that fact, because you're human too.
Yeah.
And you're willing to accept when you're wrong and tell them and say, hey, guys, you know what? I'm sorry. Let's move past it. If there's any issues, please let me know, because I want to make sure that I do right by you guys. Those little things go a long way too.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, dude, we're all human.
Right.
We're all just figuring it out.
Yep.
Everybody wants to feel like, I should have it figured out, or
Yeah.
like there's a certain way of doing things, but there's not.
And there's never gonna, we're all, but we can all get better as individuals.
100%.
And, whatever version of ourselves, areas to improve. I think, that's always been a big focus for me, is kind of looking within, like, how can I improve? How can I improve?
Yeah.
We're still having some fun behind it, like
Yeah.
trying to get out of that too tight of a cage, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I mean, you look at Andy, you look at any of those groups, and to me, it all comes down to the leadership.
Yeah, no, Andy's a hell of a leader. I actually worked for supplement superstores back
you did?
in, like 2009, 2010.
Did you ever work in the Chesterfield Valley?
No, I did
Okay.
not. We
All
actually didn't have a Chesterfield store at that
really?
time. Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever I worked there, this was like Andy's still doing all the interviews. He's
wow.
operating out of the Manchester store.
Okay.
And I was working out here in St. Peter's.
Got
So first form was just starting. I think there was Ignition and Level 1 were the only two products.
Good products, though.
Yeah, good products for sure. And then Formula 1 dropped, and then probably shortly after that, I moved to Texas for about a year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Where did you live?
San Antonio.
Oh, okay, okay.
Lived down there for about a year, and then we ended up moving back here to the St. Louis area. So, yeah, even then, man, I can remember, like, telling myself, like, this company is going to be huge. I was actually kind of bummed I moved, because I'm like, man, there might be a ton of opportunity here.
Sure.
Little did I know they'd be as big as they are. You know what I mean? Like, I knew they'd be big, but they're doing a lot of good things, man. Andy's just a hell of a leader, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's, the first one to say as well that, it didn't come right off the bat. I think,
Yeah, it's
he
a
grew
process.
into those roles too. I think, people look at Andy now and they're blown away, and I am too, with his leadership and how he approaches his company and what he does on a daily basis. But I'm sure for him it took time as well.
Yeah. Well, it all takes time, man.
Being patient with yourself, it can be hard.
Yeah.
But it does mean a lot in the long run.
Yeah. So what's next for you, man? I mean, you're building the business.
Yeah.
Doing the podcast still, right? Like, what's on the horizon that you're really looking towards?
So, man, in the short term, building Element is really
That's the focus.
That's the focus right now.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to help students grow their own business down the road. I'm working on putting a book together that is going to basically give a lot of knowledge as to how you start a business from scratch, and it's going to be geared more towards chiropractic students. It's going to have a little bit of my story, but I'm also going to include some information from other successful chiropractors and people within the business world that can help give tips, because I want it to just add value. It's not just my opinion. It's, what's been out there. So that's exciting. I was really pushing that hard, and then kind of took a step back because I realized, look, I can't branch out too much yet, because there's still so much within Element that I need to grow.
Yeah, you don't want to spread yourself thin.
Correct. And, it needed a lot of attention. So I kind of calmed that down. I'm like, you know what, I've got all that info and I still want to do that. I'm going to revisit it. But for now, I need to dial that back a bit. And, the podcast was kind of similar. I was trying to do one a week and, maybe one extra that was a shorter one. And it just got to be to where it felt like I was just working too hard to do the things that were once fun. And so I've kind of dialed that back to once every couple weeks. And again, as the business gets more in place, we're, finishing some of the back end processes. I'll put a lot more emphasis into that. We haven't really announced it yet, but going into the new year, there's a girl, she runs one of the fitness studios around in Dallas. Her name's Paige Martindale. We are looking to join for my podcast and be co-host. Maybe it's like once a month we get together, and whether it's us two interviewing somebody else or it's just the two of us sitting down and chatting about whatever topic.
Nice.
She just has so much value. People love listening to her, and she's a graphic designer. So I'd like to kind of revamp I like our logo, but I'd like to revamp it to where it's a little bit more welcoming. Maybe add, a picture of myself, a picture of her, if we're going to do it that way.
Yeah,
So
switch
she's
look
got a
up.
cool eye. And so I'd kind of like to, take a look and go, hey, how can we do this? How can we maybe improve some of the music? But really just improving the process is putting ourselves, my wife and I, our goal is that in, 6 years, I guess I need to look back at the numbers again now. We'd like to be completely debt free.
Oh,
and
nice.
so we're making really strong moves, tightening up a lot in spending areas that we were very loose before,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are in our world, and I think my wife and I would like to have kids here in, the next little bit. And so the combination of all of those things is really just, I kind of look at really within that 5 years, what are we trying to accomplish? And so I think we have a lot of growth and opportunity ahead, but, trying to, like you said, not spread too thin.
Right.
And want to be successful at home first.
Yeah, man. Well, you're in grad mode, my friend. That's good, man. I'm excited to see what the future has to hold. Hold
I
for
think
you.
I think that's always going to be the case, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
always
how
part of
can
it.
the folks check you out, man?
Sure. So my page on Instagram is Dr. Pennell 5, so DrPennell 5. Element Health and Wellness page is the Instagram. My Facebook page is Dr. Matthew Pennell. So you can check that out. We've got we're trying to educate, do a lot of information there. I actually just downloaded that new app, TikTok.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
I'm on there.
Are you? What do you think?
Man, I downloaded it some time ago and I haven't
Yeah.
really done anything with it, but
It's
where
really
all the kids are.
that's what they tell me. So I downloaded it to kind of play around.
We're
on
the old
that.
guys now.
That's right. I
Holy
know.
hell.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Yeah. So
Last
my name
night.
on there is Dr. Pennell 5. If you want to check that out, we're just going to start sharing some little short videos and things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost like you don't want to be late to the game, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're already late to it to begin with. So, trying to stay ahead of the curve on all of that stuff. But, feel free to reach out to me. You can, shoot me an email or go through the pages.
Yeah.
Love chatting with people.
And then the podcast is Entrepreneur's Edge.
Yeah, the Entrepreneur's Edge podcast. It's
Yeah.
the full thing is our.
Which, I mean, you have almost
yeah.
50 episodes up there. So, I mean, there's still a good catalog for people to listen to.
Yeah, definitely. Adam and I were talking. I took a little time away from it when we moved down to Dallas, and we've revamped it, and we're continuing to work and grow that process. So yeah, I mean it's there, and I think we'll just continue it and roll from there. But I'm excited to see everything you're doing. You've got some good ones coming out here, and listening to some of your podcasts on the plane and whatnot. You just have a cool approach. So I'm very appreciative. Thank you, and I wish you all the best, buddy.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you doing this today. And, yeah, that's all I got for today, dude. All right, dude. Everybody, until next time.